Hi, I'm Tim Constantine from the Washington Times, and for America, he is David Bozell. David, how are you?
Tim, how are you? I'm good.
I'm doing great. You know, November of 2022, former President Donald Trump announced he would be running again.
Yeah.
And for more than a year, the media has been talking about the presidential race. It's still 10 months away. But Iowa is here and now, the official kickoff of the presidential run. The field has been winnowed, and we're down realistically in the Republican field to Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and I have to just mention it because he has not dropped out of the race,
Sure.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Sure.
Let's talk about where we are, and before we do anything else, why Iowa? Why is it important?
Well, I wish it wasn't Iowa come Monday. It's going to be -2 as a high, and I implore the Republican Party in future years, let's consider some sort of a different rotation, if not a different month to do this. There's no way that the Republican electorate, the Republican nominee, should be decided by two states in voting in sub-zero temperatures. I just think that's a ridiculous premise.
You know, and the process keeps getting pushed back. This process, the primary and caucus process, goes back about 50 years.
Yeah.
And it started out fairly compact, but it was mostly March, April, May.
Right.
Boom, 90 days or less, and it was over. And then everyone kept threatening, well, we want to be first. We want to be more important in the process. And each time Iowa and New Hampshire would move a little earlier and a little earlier. Matter of fact, I don't know if you remember this, last time around, they actually kicked around the idea of moving Iowa into the prior year, into December, and they got poo-pooed. But I just think going back to a more compressed schedule.
Totally agree. I totally agree. Look, we're a young country. We're babies, really, when you think about it. I think there's been a mistake made in the last couple of cycles stretching this out for media consumption. I think the Republican Party has an opportunity, if they really rethought it, to make a made-for-TV event in a late spring, a votorama per se, across multiple different states, multiple compact number of days, and I think that would be certainly an improvement.
I would be happy to host just such an event.
Right.
Let's talk about Iowa this year, because Iowa's about 3 million people, 3.2 million people. There will be a few 100,000 will show up in this -2-degree weather and hang out all night. A caucus, you don't simply cast the ballot and go back in your warm car and drive home. You stay there. You listen to speeches. You give speeches if you want. You can move around during the course of the night. You might start out as a Vivek Ramaswamy fan and think, geez, I don't know if he's going to make it. I'm going to move over here to Ron DeSantis. It's a crazy process. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just unique process. Who stands to gain and lose? Everybody thinks Trump will win this thing, but coming out of Iowa, you've got to have some momentum. Let's run through the candidates one at a time. How does Vivek Ramaswamy stay in the race?
Well, I don't know if he has the monetary means to do it, beyond self-funding, beyond Iowa and New Hampshire. He's got to take advantage of new media tools. He already has. He goes viral nearly every single day. His Q&As with reporters on the ground are the best of all the candidates. Obviously, Trump has his style of doing things. More post-presidency, it's been teleprompters a lot. He doesn't do a lot of Q&A that's random, like in a coffee shop or something like that. Vivek is excellent at that, and you've seen that. You've seen him go viral a number of times. Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley don't have that same skill set, and so they tend to get their media consumption from debate nights, and their teams are trying to make them go viral.
Not sure if that's good.
I'm not sure that's good either.
Let's talk about DeSantis, because when he announced back in May, there was among the, we're not so sure about Donald Trump, but we like Trump's policies, we like conservative things. There was hope that DeSantis would be their guy. He has disappointed, at least in the polls. He came out of the blocks really slow, stumbled out with his launch that didn't work, and his poll numbers have actually drifted backwards. They haven't increased. So what does Ron DeSantis have to do in order to be taken seriously moving to New Hampshire and South Carolina?
Well, I think he's going to do fairly well in Iowa. He has to come out of there with a 3 in terms of the percentage. at the front of it. Whether it's 30 or 39, I'm sort of indifferent to. He's got to have that 3 in front of it. I think he's going to get it. Does it generate momentum into New Hampshire and Nevada? I don't think so, particularly Nevada. He may, he'll get a couple percentage points boost in New Hampshire because of a steady performance in Iowa. But beyond that, taking that out west, I think is a different deal.
So the same question with Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley started out in single digits. She has built some momentum, and she has been able to come closer and closer. Depending on the state, she's beating DeSantis in some of the polls. What does she need to do? I think she's banked more on New Hampshire than Iowa. So what does she need to do coming out of Iowa to make sure she doesn't lose any of that New Hampshire momentum?
She needs to be in the double digits in Iowa. Not sure that she can get there, given the temperatures and given the intensity that it requires for a caucus voter to pull off what you've described. She needs to win New Hampshire outright to stay in the race. South Carolina is February the 24th. She is not going to want to risk losing her home state. I think she exits stage left after New Hampshire.
If she wins New Hampshire, I'm not saying she will. If she wins New Hampshire, do the people who elected her twice in South Carolina suddenly rally around her and give her a second win?
I don't think so. I think that's still Trump's state to lose going away.
Let's talk about Trump and winning and losing. Realistically, in your opinion, is there any way for Trump to lose this nomination to another candidate? Not to an issue of health, not to an issue of legality, but to another candidate?
I don't think so. I think this nomination process is going to get wrapped up fairly quickly. For all its bluster, for all the ink spilled about it, you're going to see a Trump-Biden rematch. I think this country wants to see a Trump-Biden rematch. There's a lot of online noise about wishing that the candidates were younger or wishing that there weren't just two parties. I think the country deserves a Trump-Biden rematch, quite frankly. There's so much uncertainty regarding the 2020 race. So it's like a boxing match. The promoters, the voters have decided we want to see them run again.
You mentioned DeSantis needs to be in the 30s, and you think he might be. You mentioned Nikki Haley needs to be in double digits. You don't think she will be. What are your predictions? Where do you think Trump will end up when in Iowa, and then where do we see the others filtering through?
I think Trump's floor is 41-42 in Iowa, and I probably expect him to be mid to high 40s, quite frankly, as a prediction. I think New Hampshire is interesting. The Trump campaign and Trump himself has made some noise that because Democrats can vote in New Hampshire and because independents without registering as a Republican can vote in New Hampshire, that has the opportunity for Nikki Haley or a challenger to unseat him. But if you're a tried and true blue Democrat and you're convinced that Joe Biden can beat Trump again, the political strategy is elect Donald Trump, throw your Democrat vote that day towards Donald Trump in New Hampshire. So I expect Donald Trump, despite some bluster and some concern about consolidation of the race with Christie dropping out, I expect Donald Trump to win New Hampshire again, and I expect the field to be basically cleared out at the latest Nevada. I really do.
Obviously, if Trump wins big in Iowa, that goes a long way toward his nomination in his instance. But in general, does Iowa make any difference? Because I think Pete Buttigieg beat Joe Biden in Iowa. Rick Santorum won in Iowa. Ted Cruz won in Iowa. None of them became the nominee. So despite all the attention, despite all the concern, despite all the money and time and effort, does Iowa matter?
I don't think it matters very much at all. Like you said, they don't have a real great history of picking the outright winner. So I think it's going to be a two-man race, Trump and DeSantis after Iowa. But I just don't think that DeSantis has the momentum to carry through New Hampshire or certainly Nevada. Trump could win or Trump could lose, and I still think Trump is the nominee effectively by March.
For America, he is David Bozell. I'm Tim Constantine from the Washington Times. Thanks for joining us.